Hey everyone, welcome to Teaching It Real. My name is Pauline, and today I'm going to be talking about just my week 2, my week 3 of experience and how different it was from week 1. I've changed things quite a bit online, I would say, especially using just Google Classroom and Google Docs. My schedule changed, as well as what I've done on Google Slides to make it much easier for the kids to follow along with the assignments, and I'm getting quite a difference in the amount of questions I'm getting, and I think the kids are getting used to it too. I'm going to do a rundown of that, as well as a little talk on a Zoom meeting that I joined last week, and I'll tell you who hosted it and all that stuff. It was pretty insightful, so just stay tuned and listen up. So yesterday we got the news that we won't be going to school for at least or until May 31st. The key word here is at least. So I am 100% sure that we are not going back for this rest of the school year, and I'm sure we all feel the same way about that. You know, I think the kids were a little hopeful that we were going to be going back for June. So week 1, I did my schedule as I showed you from my first video, that I was doing it as like every day I was posting what they were going to do. In the last 2 weeks, I've realized that that didn't work. Well, I realized that the first week that it didn't work. And so week 2, I started with doing my schedules where I front loaded all the work for them. So what I did was I actually gave them all their work for the week on Google Classroom, and I made the document to say, like, this is what you're doing for language, this is what you're doing for math. And then I realized it was a lot of words and a lot of instructions. So then I had to like compile it and make it easier for them. What I decided to do is all my assignments that I was giving. So instead of posting like 3 different little work or assignments to turn into like a language section of Google, what I did was I just put everything, I amalgamated it all together into a Google Slides. And so basically throughout all the slides has the different activities. It would be like about 10 slides, I would say, roughly, if you have like 3 activities-ish. And I would post all their links that they need to access on there. And it's just so much more clean, so much more easier. And what I do is I give each student a copy, like I make a copy for each student when I'm assigning it as an assignment, the whole slides. That worked much better. I'm telling you, they actually were able to follow along. They didn't have to read my whole document of like my explanation of what to do for language and math. They just went to their language assignment, clicked it, opened the document, and they get to see every single instruction in the whole document. But then I also realized that I'm not really explaining a lot. I was using Screencastify less in week 2, and so I was like, okay, how do I do this so that I can still give them instructions and make it easy? So what I actually did was, as you can see over here for language and social studies, I actually put in like a link right at the front of the first slide. It's saying, here's a video explanation of all the instructions in the slide. So they click on that, and then therefore they are able to access all that I have to say about what they need to do in each activity. I also realized front loading was great, especially for the kids who want to kind of go ahead and do their work in 2-3 days and then have the rest of the days off if they prefer that. But I realized the kids that need a little bit of structure were having a hard time being like, okay, how long is this going to take me? When should I work on this? And then they were feeling really overwhelmed and anxious. So I added like dates. So I'll say like Monday, activity 1, like this is what you need to do. And it was just more of a marker for them to be able to organize their time and organize their work. It was a suggestion, and I told them that very clearly. I said, you know, you don't have to follow this, but if you do need a guideline, here it is, kind of thing. I found that the kids that needed it used that guideline, and the kids that didn't just did it on their own and on their own time. However, I did find week 1 and week 2, I had some great numbers. You know, I was telling you guys from week 1, I had about 12 kids. You know, week 2, I probably had roughly the same. Week 3 felt like this. And it kept going and going. And I would just stare at my screen and just wait. And wait. and there was nobody. So week 3 was a lot more discouraging than the other weeks, and I feel that they are losing interest. And I don't blame them because I know it's hard right now, and I think that the hope of going back to school kind of pushed them to do the work maybe, but as we kind of push and say, okay, school's gonna be closed, they are kind of falling off a little bit. It was perfect though, because just in time we got the announcement, because we weren't allowed originally to video call with them or do any audio calls or anything like that. But during week 3, my school board actually said, yes, okay, we're giving you the go ahead. You can use Google Meets or Google Hangout to do a video call and connect with your kids. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing right now is to connect with them, to be honest, and to build that relationship and to make sure they are okay and to make sure that we are okay. So that connection is huge. And at first I was nervous to do like a whole classroom Google Meets because I was like, I don't know how this is gonna feel and I don't want to do this. To be honest, I didn't want to with 20 kids on the video or even 15. I just felt like I couldn't manage it. And also, I was not comfortable yet using Google Hangout or Google Meets because I haven't really used it. I mean, I've used it maybe one-on-one, but I haven't used it with a whole classroom. So I tried that out and I'll tell you how that went. I was like, let's just delve right in. Let's get our feet wet a little bit. And if I mess up, I mess up. And if it's all crazy, I'll just press the X sign really, really quickly. But I didn't have to do that. It went actually really well. There was about 8 kids that signed on. And what we realized was that I can mute them. I can press mute if I don't want them to talk. Because the problem is that if everyone is unmuted, and even though you're not talking, you can still hear like the rustle and bustle of the background, and it echoes a lot. So it's really hard to hear each other if I'm speaking or if somebody else is speaking. So what I did was I would mute the kids, and then I realized that I can't unmute them. If I mute them, they have to unmute themselves. Sorry. Does that make sense? So basically I can mute them, but they are the only ones that can unmute it. So they had to figure that out. And the easiest way to get the mute button to show up is if by clicking your own screen, and then it'll come up like the little microphone, and they would have to click that. Another thing that I realized is that they can also mute themselves and they can unmute themselves. So I did tell them, like, the more you mute yourselves, it's better, unless you have to say something, because then we won't hear that echo. So it really worked really well. I mean, it was kind of nice to have 9 kids or 8 kids only first, because that way we can kind of troubleshoot together and figure out. But it was really, really, really nice to actually hear their voices and see their faces. Even though not all my kids showed their faces, it was okay. I still heard their voice, and it was such a nice feeling. And I think that they felt it too. I just felt like we needed it a lot. So after I got off the meet, I realized that, you know what, they're gonna need this, and we definitely need to do this again. And I think it needs to be a weekly thing. Actually, in the meeting we discussed saying that, should we do it on Monday as like an after weekend kind of thing, or should we do it on Friday? And most of them voted for a Monday, so we did like Monday meetings. So we started that this morning, actually going into week 4. Today is week 4. And we had about 12 kids at most come in, but it was awesome. There was even one of my kids who's actually in Pakistan right now, so he's not even here in Canada, and he stayed up all night to video chat with us, which is so sweet. And just that action in itself tells me how important it is to connect with them and how much they are missing it too. The other thing I wanted to say was that last week I was scrolling through, I don't know, some sort of teacher forum on Facebook, and I saw that somebody was hosting a teacher Zoom meeting about mental health, like how teachers are taking care of their own mental health. And this was led by a gentleman named Matthew R. Morris, and I'm sure you can find him on Instagram as well as on Facebook. And their hashtag for their conversations on Zoom meeting is #QuarantineEd. And I know that the meeting is open to US residents as well as Canadian. They are from Canada in the GTA. It was really nice, actually. I mean, I didn't know any of the teachers on there, but that just goes to show how much we need to connect right now. And this is an amazing platform and opportunity to be able to actually create like such a strong community of teachers, even if it's not in your district, like just around the world. And this is the reason why I also wanted to do this video and YouTube channel, is because I want to connect with other teachers around the world who are like-minded and who are going through the same things as me, and that I can learn from, and then they can learn from me as well. So that's one of my goals with this whole channel and YouTube. So hopefully you are also tuned in because of that reason. One of the things that he had said and mentioned, and I believe that it was on his blog, because he also writes blogs, and it was so like just like everything I've been feeling into like the perfect words, if that's a thing. This is not true distance learning, right? Like we know that. We know that because of how much we're struggling. We know that because of how much the kids are struggling. If this was true online learning, it would be much more, it would be like smooth sailing. It's not at all, okay? I have a dog and it's driving me crazy being at home and trying to do all this. I can't imagine the teachers that have kids at home all the time, actively there, and doing the work and trying to give feedback and trying to make sure their online kids or like their class kids are good, but as well as their like kids at home are good. Honestly, like kudos to you guys, because I'm not sure how, but you are all amazing. Seriously. Anyways, so he was going on and he explained that this is not true distance learning. This is actually called emergency education. And it really is. That is the perfect explanation for this. This is an emergency. We are in a crisis. So teachers, everybody around me, you need to realize that you, again, back to expectations of my first video, you cannot expect the same things from your students and you cannot expect the same things from yourself. So please take it easy, make it simple for them. One of the emails that I received from my admin today was talking about like, don't be so hard on your assignments, like don't give them these crazy long-winded projects, like give them something that they can connect to and give them something that allows them to continuously like check in with your platform and go on to Google Classroom and have a reason to make that connection. And after reading that email, I kind of tweaked my lessons for today. I gave them space as like science, and there was a lot of like pros and cons of space exploration, and read this article and watch this video and like write a pros and cons list and do all that. And originally I told them to write a paragraph and then just write it out there. But then I realized, wait, this could be a moment of connection with my kids. So I actually told them to go on Flipgrid, which is another program that I've been using. They can video record themselves reading their paragraph. And then what the other kids can do in my class is go on, watch their videos, and then guess what object or item it is in space by doing like a video back to them. So it's really, really cool, and I think that it should work well. I did an example for them and I put it on Flipgrid, so it would be kind of nice for them to see me doing it as well and participating in the game. Back to what I was saying originally with the Zoom meeting is, after talking to the teachers on there and like listening to the discussion and talk about how, you know, some kids are thriving right now online, like the kids that you wouldn't expect to thrive are thriving because again, all the whole environment's changed, right? They don't have to worry about like what they look like, what they're like seeing, like who's watching them, who's not. Are they cool? Are they not cool? Like by saying these things, by answering questions, by doing the work. So all these things are kind of taken away and they're actually doing the work. And you know, people, again, like kids that we didn't expect to do the work. On the other hand, we have the kids that we expected to do all the work are now performing at their best. So it's this kind of like flip-flop of expectations, and it's throwing everyone out for like a loop. I mean, it's great for the kids that can do it and can be active and are feeling like empowered by this, but it's not so great for the kids that normally feel empowered and don't feel empowered. So that imbalance is pretty interesting. I wonder what that means like for our education. Are we just going to go back to how things were, or is this going to give us insight into something that we can change and we can make sure that all the kids are feeling empowered from now on in our classrooms? So what does that mean? How do we change our environment? So pretty interesting questions to think about. And like, I'm going to be joining in again this Thursday at, I think they do it at 7 p.m. So if you can find him and join in, that would be awesome. But the question that they left us off with to think about for the week is, what do you want to teach when you get back to the classroom? Aside from all the subjects that we need to teach, what do you really want to teach the kids after this pandemic in your classes? I've just been thinking about that this week, and I'm leaning towards something along the lines of social understanding, like social relationships, like how much that really matters, how to take care of yourself mentally when we are in a place where you have no social interactions. What does that mean for us? Do we love ourselves? Did you love being by yourself? Did you discover new things? Like those kinds of things that I've been thinking about that I would probably want to start teaching in the classroom come September, because most likely we know it's going to be September. So I just want to say, continue being easy on yourself. I think the biggest takeaway from that Zoom meeting was that this is not, again, like a normal distance learning platform. And I know that a lot of teachers are struggling mental health wise because of the different responsibilities that they have, whether or not it's home responsibilities, kids responsibilities, and then you have the school responsibility. So there is a lot on people's shoulders. So really, like at the end of the day, keep it simple, keep it light, do the best you can, do as much as you can, but don't overdo it and don't overwork yourself. A recap of what I wanted to talk about during this whole video was Google Slides. Really utilize that and put streamline all your little assignments that you want to give them into one document. You do want the kids checking in, obviously, so do come up with some ways for them to kind of connect online, right? So if you put a Flipgrid in there, do it during the week, like maybe on a Wednesday. That way they're coming on Monday, getting the work, they can get back on Wednesday to be able to connect with you, and then do like a Friday meeting to be able to again say, okay, how did your week go? What did you think? Like do a little check-in, right? You can not only do a check-in via Google like Hangout, you can also do a check-in via Google Forms, right? Like sending them a form every Friday. That's what I was doing for the first 2 weeks, just to say like, how do you feel? What do you think's working? What do you think we need to change? That kind of thing. So giving them a reason to sign on is huge, because you don't want them to just do the work and then leave and then be totally not there for the next 4 or 5 days. It's just good for their mental health. It's not even for work-wise. It's just good to connect and make sure that they are happy and okay, and that they'll have their peers that they're connected to, and that is so important. That community is so important. So try to incorporate those things as well. That's that. That's all today for me, guys, but do try to go outside. It's so beautiful outside today. Get some fresh air, go for a walk, obviously social distance, but please get outside. It's so nice and it's very good for your mental health. Stay tuned for next time. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to see anything else, any other upcoming videos, just let me know in the description box below, and don't forget to subscribe.